The console software controls many of the features on the Universal Audio Apollo interface. Now we'll be looking at cue settings. If you want the mix that you are listening to on the speakers to be mirrored to the cue, which will feed the headphone amp, you need to click Cue Outputs and select the Mix button on the source. On the Mirror to Output, line 1 and 2 should be selected. Under Apollo, Q1 should be going to headphone port 1 and Q2 should be going to headphone port 2. The Universal Audio Apollo, as well as being an audio interface, has additional features that allow you to use the UA plugin library within the console software. If you click one of the insert slots, you will see a menu where you can select various plugins. The UA Apollo also offers external DSP, which is basically additional computing parts within the hardware that can be used to run Universal Audio plugins on your DAW. We are now in LR3, one of the live rooms here at our music department, and we'll be having a look at how to use the live room correctly and effectively. But firstly, we need to consider why should we use the live room? So basically, the main reason is that by using the live room, you would have the ability to monitor what you're recording through the main speakers in the control room without it being picked up by the microphones, since the microphones would be in a separate room. Now, let's have a look at the equipment that we need in the live room. So firstly, we need a mic stand. Then we'll need either a shock mount or a microphone clip, depending on the shape of the microphone that you're using. So here we're going to attach the shock mount to the stand by loosening up this screw so we can rotate this pole on the boom arm and we can turn it around in order to screw in the shock mount. This is the easiest and most effective way of placing the shock mount on the mic stand. Then you tighten it up again and then you can position your microphone. So there's two types of microphones that you might be using in this room. You're either going to be using condenser microphones or dynamic microphones. The main difference between these two types of microphones is that the condenser microphones, they need to be charged with 48 volts of phantom power in order to work, and the dynamic microphones don't. They will work as soon as you plug them in. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to be using this condenser microphone and we are going to place it in the shock mount as such. And once you find the correct placement for it, you have to tighten up these screws on the sides of the shock mount in order to make sure that the microphone will be secured and placed correctly. Once you're done with that, you might also need a pop shield, depending on the sensitivity of the microphone that you've chosen to use. So if you've chosen a microphone that requires the use of a pop shield, you will place it in this way. You loosen up the screw, you place it on the stand and you tighten up the screw, and then you can move this flexible arm in order to place the shield in front of the microphone. The next thing you will need is an XLR cable, and you will plug the female end of the XLR cable on the microphone, and the male end of the XLR cable should be plugged in the wall box. And just as a reminder, all the wall boxes in the live room, they are labeled, as you can see here, but they are not necessarily correspondent to the windows that are just above the wall box. So the wall box for CF4 is not actually under the window for CF4. So just remember to read the labels when you're plugging in the microphone in the wall box. And finally, you can plug in your headphones in order for your musicians to hear back the backing track and themselves. So you can plug the headphones into the headphone sockets on the wall boxes. Now we'll be having a look at how to coil cables correctly, and it's important that you do so because if you coil cables incorrectly too many times they may get damaged. The correct technique to coil cables is called the over-under coiling technique, and I'll be demonstrating now one of the ways of doing it. Firstly, you hold one end of the cable with your left hand and you slide your right hand down until you're holding a significant length of cable, and you will fold the cable with the palm of your hand facing down like this, and this will be your first loop. For the second loop, you start it in a similar way. Slide your right hand down until you've got a reasonable length of cable, and then you fold it, but this time you twist your wrist towards you and the palm of your hand will be facing up like this. So this will be your second loop. Now you have to carry on coiling the cable, alternating between the loops when your hand will be facing down and the loops that your hands will be facing up. So one more loop, the palm of your hand facing down, one more loop, palm of your hand facing up, and you carry on like that, down, up, down, and it will be done. And now what you need to do is to use this little Velcro tie to keep the cable coiled in place. When you're coiling headphone cables, you will do it in the same way. So you hold the headband and you slide your right hand down and you fold it with the palm of your hand facing down like this. Next loop, palm of your hand facing up, fold it again, then facing down and facing up, down, and you're done. And remember to use the Velcro cable tie again, and also the cable tie needs to go around the headband as well so the cable can be held in place correctly. And now you're ready to start using the live room.